Songje Jido Zoje Chonola, Changje Bada, Danesha Sonje, Takeji Soji Besen, Besha Sanjendo Boy, Songje Jido Zoje Chonola, Changje Bada, Danesha, Danesha Soji Besen, Amjen, Dalam Besha Sanjendo Boy, Songje Jido Zoje Chonola, Changje Bada, Danesha.就说结巴的到跟到老百姓上街着吧，就个一瞬间他们去调我的队员接到的，瞬间他们去对眼到对眼给见到找我姐姐，瞬间他去对眼没被调我的名找我姐，瞬间他们去年里瞧到年到这月东阳了两把就说就一瞬间他们去调我的队员接到两把。瞬间团结对眼到对眼给接到这话姐姐，瞬间团结对眼没被调我的名找我。瞬间他们去年里瞧到年到这月东阳了两把就说就一瞬间他们去调我的队员接到两把姐姐，瞬间。对眼到对眼给接到这话姐姐，瞬间团结对眼没被调我的名找我。瞬间他们去年里瞧到年到这月东阳了两把就说就。充满长的学节，但呢，扎头用个那么是用做了长的学的，但是从可能用个充满了长的学跟的，当然，但是那么这里个学的，啊呢，让每个逻辑都可以个那了呢，看做生产的呢嘛了，啊嘛子学，第一个了呀，全部各种机动个什么，都对接使用个一学。
Greetings to all of you, especially greetings to those who are present here in person and those who are listening via Zoom or via internet. Okay, greetings to all of you. So I would like to continue with where we stopped during our last session. We completed the narratives and origin and history of Tara Tantra and so on. But today I would like to begin by giving a brief introduction to how we set our proper motivation.
这次这嘛呢，数据统计探测的，第三就统计探测的，想去想把探测给出来啥呢？两个种的它，你看了实际要嘛的意思。
Tara is the entity of Buddhas of all the 10 directions. Tara is the entity also of the Buddha of all the 3 times, the Bodhisattvas, and so on. There is none comparable to Tara whose virtuous activities supersedes all of their blessings. That is to say, the Tinle here refers to what I translate as virtuous activity here refers to someone who acts as an agent to carry out the virtuous activities of all of these. No.
사당 라미기 공부 토바 토고 있는다 상기기 공부 토 댕기 있는다 대만이 만내가 안주 단다 시소가 나로라 제라라 강에 가르친 거예요 등에 가르친 거예요 다가 나지기 끝마다 칸바를 매셔야 그선다보다 근데 총마사 뒤에 그선다보다 차시기 통에 관에 셔야 그선다보 다가 나지기 하게 내봐 그선다보 인제가 내봐 그선다보 루다 정규 제기 내봐 그선다보 근데 가리 쇼나 차라기 소와 따사도 받쳐 줘야 된지 빨리 정리가 다 네가 가나 쓰지요 말이지.
Whether as an individual one is seeking the achievement of grounds and paths, the realization grounds and paths, or ultimately seeking the achievement of Buddhahood, or temporarily speaking, if one is seeking and goals for one's own self, or for that matter, if one is serving the community for the service of community in whatever aspect, in both the courses, whenever you face any difficulties, whenever you undergo sufferings or pains and troubles, or whether you also encounter, say, thieves and thugs, or there is fire accident that you face, or for example, and also we meet with the non-virtuous beings, and also say there are fire, or there's also, if suppose we meet with harms from gods and goddesses and the demons and nagas and obnoxious spirits and so on, whatever difficulties and troubles and problems that one may encounter, in order to get oneself free from all of these, the Tara is the supreme object of supplication. Tara is the supreme object to whom we seek freedom from all these troubles and fears and so on. So there's none who is superior than Tara in order to get ourselves free from all these troubles and difficulties.
네, 네, 안에 남아서기 안에 최산의 상제 공부 타야기 쳐도다. 추산의 미친 디기 놀러라 강요다, 강해다, 능해기다. 니바 대소래 안에 샤야라 편통 요야기 쳐도 쉬고요라. 체란 넘버 7장 자토 용에 있는데 안에 단단한서 초코나는 영에 처이는데 계좌 소수기 강해도 능하 대소래 샤야기 쳐도 얘기 좀이 치고데 얘기 아니 네게 된다랑에 탄대 계주 제기 네게 중화돼서 동기 선배가 그런 기네 내로 나서.
So from the supreme goal of ourselves, that is to actualize Buddhahood, or just say from a very trifling or small matters such as that concerns this life, this very life, such as the troubles and sufferings and difficulties that we may face, or we encounter fears and so on, in order to get in order to free ourselves from all such encounters. I am here in order with an intention to benefit you guys. I'm here to give some teaching on Taras, and for you guys also I advise that, especially those who are here in person and those who may be listening from distant, please set your proper motivation, thinking that I would listen to this teaching of Tara, and I would also do the prayers and supplications, and even to the extent of reciting the mantras of Tara only for the purpose of getting oneself free or getting the freedom from all these encounters that we listed above. Now,
이제学了 가상가서学돼. 또 뒤지지는 지시는 거예요. 대야 아니 제주 도메기 지된데 또 당보 로빠탈라라 조데기 까외 티세네 총반에 송데 아니 상지 쩐데는 지데를 신베 가서 양자송 되네 빠체 하나 도제라 때네 쫄로젠데 다 되네 양자 점블린데 따라 되네 아니 자가 내렌라다 까말라실레 gambal라 소베 gam바 첨보 대선으로 따라때네 데라 찌찌베노로 배 강체 정라 다베가 빠기 지른땡에 카수시바 나시
now, as to the lineage or the transmission of Tara cycles of teachings and practices, during the completion period, at the heaven of Potala, Taratantras were taught. In those days, Taratantras were taught, and then during the time of it was passed all the way down to the time of our legendary Buddha Shakya Muni, who then passed on to Vajrapani at the heaven of the Changlochen, and from then onwards it got transmitted, all the cycles of teachings and practices of Tara got transmitted into this world and then got spread and disseminated in the great monastics such as Nalanda and Vikramalashila. And it was from there onwards, later on, it all got transmitted and disseminated into Tibet. That is how it came all the way to Tibet. That was in brief, as to the transmission of the Tara cycle of teachings and practices.
그래서 때네 드링아 정리지 세대 가르치고 있으나 제주 드라마라 때네 안에 로주기 토안에 때네 제주 드라마기 지파 가제 쇼기 요래 뒤 거기 뉴 말에 시다 몽보래 뒤가 놀러네 드링아 저 가서 봐봐대 안에 정견도 트베기 안에 레제만 소바 나시기 안에 시인지파 전부 제다 난긴지파 전부 제레 간데시 앞에 그 추대 너 뒤뒤시는 시용이 있어.
Now, as to how we should rely on Tara, and and I have already spoken about the origin and the transmission and how it got disseminated all the way up to us. But today we are specifically dealing with a particular context of relying on Tara and getting freed from the fears, different types of fears or dangers. There are innumerable numbers of fears and dangers that are listed, but however, today in this particular context, given the time span, given the time strain, I would be referring to the treatises of the first Dalai Lama's hymn called Lektima, the crown, praise of crown for the wise ones, and in which there are 8 types of external fears that are listed, as well as there are 9 types of internal fears that have been listed. And I'm gonna talk and keep teaching on this.
Tene jipa chemo je no lo ne tambo singing jipa le chance ti de ya tene dome gi phiwe ge na lo la chano tara na de tipa je song che na ngema le jaga lombe no lo la mi chi hina se le ya bishi tasa sombare ka te de ne singe chi de wo to de ka do ke chi ne mi te kine singe chang ne ya ro ge ka so kong gi je zo do ma la so ha chang gi Tabi kaso domegi lonso ane shilo kis kingegi ane pime chili tui chine lonso sengegi ya hado maha ninga kadoso ya danchi ne ane mida kanone ma tenba ma se lonso chine yung chine tongche nolo la ane mi mongpon zasa thara chiga nolo la shani sumbares.
Now, as to the first of the 8 fears, that is the line of arrogance, the fear of line of arrogance. It was, I follow the Taranatha's treatises, and in this, it is said that way back, way back in the past in India, it was in India, that a person who actually went to the forest to collect wood, and he met with a tigress, a hungry tigress, whom he encountered, and that tigress actually grabbed him, attacked him, and stalked on him, and took him to his to her den in order to feed him to his cubs. Then, out of fear, that victim, out of fear, prayed very sincerely to Tara, made his supplication to Tara, and suddenly Tara is said to have appeared in the form of a woman wearing garbs of leaves. And what did she do was she actually she opened the mouth of the tigress widely, upward and downward, so much so strongly that the victim fell out of the was thrown out of the tigress mouth, and tigress thereby was terrified and left, and in this way that emanation of Tara in the form of that lady wearing garments of leaves is said to have protected him, and he was then carried to a safe place in the community from the place of the tigress. Long.
Also, the Loton Hela, Tandega Nazumi Sundan Shimare, Shina Tubo Shadare, Chesa Mombo Shadare, Tanda Noji Mimbo Mombo Yomare, Chesaka Tidila, and a middle Chesego Pagi Jipachivigi, Tikachire. Ta Tirikazo Nazoma Panishana, Nazo, Mota Dunka Teagazon Rabat, and the Tizidache Zoagazon Rabat, another Dache Zonda, and Dindiga Kala Kesuna. This social in something in the target, the digits of Doma Savatan, Shagre, Sambegi, Ichite, near Gore. I mean, the Ichi near Gonelia, and a Kande Karche Goranga, Karadogortes, and Gilia,
This is a story or narrative that deals with a time when it's thousands of years ago, when the forests are thick, the population of wild animals are found in huge numbers, and the population of people was not that thick and not that large, so you can say thin. So this is talking about thousands of years ago. However, in the context of today's age of today, and today's age when we live where we live, we live in a different situation and time context, where we may go through accidents. We may face accidents, car accidents from the ships, and accident from the airplane, and so on and so forth. So during such encounters as well, when we pray Tara with complete trust and faith in her, we will definitely be receiving her protection and so on. And how do we do that? That is, we can do that through prayers, through incantation of the Tara mantra, and so on. And on those I will try to deal later. Yes.
Jipali Shaba, the Shing Jipa Chile, Dedo Gontumba, Nagin Jipe Tony Shana, Najing Jipa Shari Yore, and Najing Jipa said, Jipa Chufis Mare, Nanjim Migishin so no so la Kangi Zoya, Dushu, the six of your Sana, Najig of your. So Tasachi Bachaja, Mimasachi Bachaja, but Digi Jimbigishin so no and then Sumantovache, Kangi should do Tishu Monshu, the Suchari Yore Sena. 안에 나제 차요래. 그래서 지수 드라마라 서왔다는 소식 나제 마차야라타 니파 야쇼된 데레스.
Now, when we talk about lion of arrogance, the fear of lion of arrogance, the arrogance of lion is the external fear. There's the internal fear is the arrogance. Arrogance, when we talk about arrogance or pride, it is not a small thing. It is rather a huge thing, and because it is this arrogant, so-called arrogance, that we generate ego, we generate pride, and due to this we generate a perspective. We develop a perspective of oneself being superior, others being low, and we despise on others, and due to this a lot of problems are created in the society So the pride, the fear, the inner fear, that is the fear of arrogance, is a huge thing, is a matter of a huge concern. And so in order to free ourselves from these fears, one must if one way to make supplication and prayers to Tara with trust and faith. Tara definitely has the same power and capability to free us from the fear, the inner fear and outer fear, inner fear especially of the arrogance.
Given
this context, in the hymn of the first Dalai Lama, I'm going to read the translation from Thupten Children's. First Dalai Lama Gyalgen Drupa in his hymn says this: dwelling in the mountains of wrong views of selfhood, puffed up with holding itself superior, it clouds other beings with contempt, the lion of arrogance. Please protect us from this danger. No.
ane longboche tombochi tune dige na hongu ji ane chawa ga pan de chebe ka te dila ane pomo chungchu dige na le ya jesu doma la sawa ta doma shinde za sa ji ga no lo yi chane ko ti ba sha de yo ane kongi doma la sawa ta yong de kala lonso tene longboche de 这伢子是马差起来了，我们得了给家些这些，他给到带这个头了压下，比么啥了嘛最，那后给家个南巴些人亲戚，点呢去了，他来我们的那后去来钱呢，中钱拿了去用，中钱拿了呀，给家去差评，点呢光把到他后门不进的看，他们的。家比普罗个年纪特别这了开着，到底对了压下，俺那差评的个了，没忙不加哈嘞，很多人的不忙的来是我全部起来下生，但的家比个怎么做能这啥来着？这也全部起的个了，家比怎么起不来是。
Now, as to the second fear, the fear of the elephant of ignorance. This is called the fear of elephant of ignorance. Again, this is the narrative of the story has to do with thousands of years of an incident that has happened in India. There was a girl, a 12 years old girl, who was walking up the hills to collect flowers. And suddenly she encountered a wild elephant who with his tusk bound her and dragged her and put her at risk, and she was being attacked and stalked. And at that time she remembered the place or her place of her worship and of Tara, and with her devotion to Tara and then the trust in Tara, she did the prayers and supplicated Tara. And at that time, as a matter of fact, the elephant suddenly lost the pride, or you can say lost the grip, and elephant got pacified, and then grabbed her again with her elephants with her tusk, and placed her on a slab or a stone, and then bent down with the elephant's knees down, and with the tusk paid homage to her, and then again grabbed her with the tusk and took her to the nearby village, and there also in the midst of the crowd he placed her to a safer place, and then again the elephant knelt down and paid homage to the girl, and this way was taken to Vihara monastery, and then to the worshiping places of worship, and then finally was taken to again to the courtyard of the king's palace. And when people saw this, and King's palace, and there also placed her in a safer place, and then the elephant knelt down and paid the homage, performed the gesture of paying the homage by bowing down with the elephant's knees down on the earth. So when people saw this, everybody was taken aback and in an awe, and they were all surprised, and then they started muttering, how come this little girl received such respect and homage from a huge elephant in such manner. They were all awestruck and were surprised, were very surprised. And then this way, finally, they proposed, and so finally she was adopted. She was taken she became the queen of the king. Long.
아니 롱부체 간절라 지는 거야 돼서 로동상 해 계절에 디리까지 나도 미신소 놀러라 롱부체레 현어 차외기 아라동에 라즈싱에 아니 타만 아버팅에 자사 아니 마비체 탐바체 니에공에 텐데 뭐뭐 튀어요래 데디까라 간주 normal sawatana domesha thore chengindus.
Well, this particular narrative and the story has to do with thousands of years ago, especially to do with the fear caused by an elephant, a wild elephant. But today we live in an age where we have more fearsome situations where we meet people who are drunk. We meet people who get swazzled from drinking. We also encounter people who take drugs and are intoxicated with that. There are people who tell lies. There are people who deceive others, and so on and so forth. We live during such an age of so many fears as such. So even during this present time, when we encounter all these fears, I believe that if we were to supplicate and pray Tara, we will receive the blessings and we will be protected by her.
Lumbo chicken jiba shea, there's a sugar jiba chere. Delis ta sheno tawade, Nangi, Tumugin jiba tere. Nangi Tumin jiba singing jiba, Yans Zobenoro, and Deli Duchi Yomar. Tumi singing the Kaki Mishiki, not Tome, Dingitere, and then not Tome, Kaya Mishiki Tumi singing Digi, Tambil Hachi Zoshigamare, and GT Machi Shigamare, Tumlu Shigamare, Yara Zoshi Shigamare, Tende Mashiwa Latin, Mila Mashi was so Mashi was a Dushu de. Tumi Mariba singing there, Jesu Damala Shasandro, Sowatana, Tumi Mariba saying digging Jipale Shaturis.
The fear of wild elephant is the external fear. The internal fear is the fear of ignorance. Fear of ignorance. Ignorance is such a state of mind that is in its entirety the very source of all unknowings, very source of all that we do not know. And it is such a state of mind that is totally what we call it's a state of mind that is as if everything is dark, everything is totally dark, and nothing is known, or nothing is made knowledgeable in its right sense, in the sense that when someone is encountered by this close-mindedness, one will have no knowledge, one will have no knowledge of the divine dharmas, or will lack knowledge of the worldly, earthly behaviors, or one will also lack the knowledge of the legalities, law and rules and regulations, nor will one have the knowledge of what we call moral and ethical disciplines. So in other words, it is this ignorance which is the worst of all emotions that we possess, we carry. So even with this as the internal fear, if we were to supplicate and pray, Tara will protect us. We will be free from this due to her blessings. Now,
Jancho Genda Trebegi, Teshi Chachin be Mantushi, De Nichin Tombi Tombete, Lope Loshi, Nansen Chavati, Tumilumbi Jipasha, so somebody's.
Keeping this in mind, the first Dalai Lama Gendun Trup in his hymn states, untamed by the sharp hook of mindfulness and introspective awareness, dulled by the maddening liquor of sensual pleasures, it enters wrong paths and shows its harmful tusk, the elephant of ignorance. Protect us from this danger.
Then Jipasamba got the shoe, then Tadu drinking Jipale, Johnson got it, and John Taranante Sunganolo, a lot of talking. Oh,
Mage Gomar. Somebody mage bueno.
Oh, Gunda. Shedu Meiji Basha, Gunda. Somebody Shedu Meiji Bashansa got the shit. Then Shedu Meiji Bashansa della, then Ya Nangamangama, Jagalombe, Noloya, Matsonchi. And Matson Shanda Ji Dan, Kenzi Cha, and Cha Tawig Jelia, Matson Shembeti, Gondan Tana Gojila, Kunji Komba, Meta Tong, and Komba Meta to show in some Jenny Meta Tang, and a part in the Sarago Morani, Gonda. Catching the Jimin and all of Dingy, meet as a shallow tire or Mingy Chai. But I know Conju 랑서 드라마를 사와다 용데 가라 낭칸이마 찜바티제 타자과자 쇼샹다 칸갈 찜바 요마르 콩베테라 찜바티제 차바슈 쳔본바네 디세 투투지가 나로라 안에 메시지네 건설라 메기치에 지바 종요마레스.
Now the third is the fear of fire, the fire of anger or hatred. Again, this is a narrative that has to do with thousands of years past, way past in India. The narrative runs like this. There were two households who had antagonism, who had animosity developed between them. There was this strong grudge and malice going against each other. It so happened that at one time, one of the family set the house of the other household in fire, and then the fire blazed so strongly that in all the four directions and all the four sub-directions, the house was totally engulfed in fire. So the people, so the family members in the house have no way to escape from their house. At that time, the household prayed to Tara, and due to the blessings of Tara, even though the sky was totally blue, there was no overcast or belonging of clouds and so on. However, right at the point, very straight above the house, cloud, there was six cloud that was formed, and from there cascaded a shower of rains to the fire so strongly that within no time the fire was extinguished, and this way they were saved from the fear of fire. Long.
안에 지서데 칸바 메기 치야 지보지 메기 지바샤 된다 말에 대래 셔양아주 소시 나한 잡고 메타 차와 있는다 짜라 메타 차와 있는다 안에 매던 데베는서 간지 좀 봐이나 어디디깔 제스도마라 서와타나 메기 지발레 조토그레스.
The issue is not necessarily alone with the fire, with the house being caught in fire accident, but related to this, we can also apply this to any other situation. For example, one's own house or property being burned or caught in the fire, or one's belongings that are lost, that are caught in the fire, and so on and so forth. Any such relative incident that we may encounter. During such encountering, if we were to pray Tara, Tara will definitely protect us from such fears. No.
Then, making jipa deslogi jipa chireta, making jipa le dua nalola ta medon de jipa chesho de shedong jipa sengetere. Shedong ye solo te kopenale ye chane zon sosola mashibada machawa chesho chagre mishenda do shinso nolola mashiwa machawa zo dusho de shedong tere chesa tene jitsu domala sowata no nange shedong jawate jipa le trotugres.
The fire here, the fear of fire here is the external fear. The internal fear here refers to the hatred, hatred, anger, like the fire, hatred, anger inside of us. That is the inner fear. If someone possesses this, when we possess this, it is this hatred, anger that becomes the cause for disturbing one's peace and serenity. Similarly, it is the one that disturbs others' peace and well-being, and also brings discomfort to others and so on. So when we encounter this kind of inner fire like enemy, hatred and anger, when we were to pray to Tara, we will be protected, or we be freed from this inner fire-like fear of hatred and anger. No.
어 된다 대라 고는 되는 장초 게도 저베게 처음에 이些弄个거반에 니些的这边弄给나사 세비 니바제 셰도미 지바샤的所送不是
Given this background in this context, the Gawagandun Trooper First Dalai Lama in his hymn speaks like this: driven by the wind of inappropriate attention, billowing forth swirling smoke, clouds of misconduct. It has the power to burn down forests of goddess. The fire of anger protects us from this danger. No.
그렇지. 근데 지바데 근데 초도 든지 지바샹스티
No.
아니 초도 든지 지바샹스 때라 저는 따라한테 순간 나로야 자가로 동차는 해라 아니 정바치가 나로라 비메 메송바치 요래 공기 정바티 나로게 총배 첨부 깨자 첨부 지도 저와 좀 되게 콩을야 안에 무디긴 튀와 안에 튀도 nga자기 무디 튀와지 찌 세네 라발 때네 공기 대 켈레시 안에 권단 채나 걸 미고 고 안에 컨트롤 되된 로데 디리카소 나시 모자 요 말에 라사 요 말에 랑가 때서 데리스 나 순이 나지 데버 말에 히나센 로고에서네 컨트롤데 안에 랑가라 녀서자 힌두지로 파니네 데데디카라 힌두고 야게 니네마 두디지 갈레 티치네 안에 비메데 주폴은 티 때는 코티 트라이응데 갈때는 제스 도만치 티 소와다 데데테네 디데 코라가 노말라 카르차레세나 메토긴 티와가 자타즈 차치네 코라 릴 티스테네 코 딜 트라야테 소요베 라스요르테 양센다버치 차치 아니 코런 로그 산로 된다 차순도 차베게 젤이야 니마 카셰 바도마토 메토기 젠차데 주폴 네데 코라에테 메토기 젠차랑 치는 게지치 데 니마 카셰 레디카라 두디 나포테 메디 까보치 추치네 추나로 로소레스
The fourth one is the fear of snake, fear of the snake of jealousy, fear of snake of jealousy. And the narrative goes like this. Again, it is cited from, extracted from Taranatha's treatises. This has to do with an incident, and narrated incident that we narrated that has happened thousands of years ago in India. There was a prostitute, and one day she met with a very rich merchant who asked, who told her that if she were to stay one time with him, he would spare or give her 500 rolls of 500 pieces of pearls as a gift. So what happened was at midnight, she walked through the forest to his household, to his house. In those days, there was no path or road as convenient as we have today. Thick forests and trails and so on. So what happened was, during her journey, she felt very tired and took a rest and by leaning against a tree. And when she was leaning against the tree, she fell asleep. And all of a sudden, a poisonous snake wound her up along with the branch she was leaning at of the tree, and then that terrified her so much so. But that terrified her so much, and then all of a sudden she reflected upon Tara and called for her blessings and her protections. At that point, in her vision, on apparition, the fear, she lost fear, and she found that and the snake that was swirling her whole body, binding her, had turned into a garland of flowers, and that too into a garland of flowers, and that too she envisioned that it stayed with her as a garland or ornament for a few more days, and then she felt relieved. And as soon as she felt relieved, she saw and experienced that the snake had also that toxic snake had also poisonous snake has also turned into a white snake, and then gradually the snake burst herself and journeyed into into a nearby brook. No.
안에 남낭해만 하진 가서 뒤서 신하던 데와 되게지 요 말에 이나야 간서 다도 안에 디긴지바 용싱게라 디지바 마인바 텔레신베 치시기 전라고 던데다 테네 소차 듀기 용에 페나 담타 전라고 던데기 네바 칸디나야 라마라 사와타나 계속 간가라 지발레 토토브리스
although we do not perhaps live in an environment where we are surrounded by a lot of forests and so on, unlike the past, but still the possibilities of ourselves encountering fear, encountering attack and fear from snakes and crocodiles and other poisonous or toxic kinds of animals and so on are always there. So during such encounter, if one way to pray Tara would certainly definitely keep protection to oneself and free from such fears.
Tene Tuting Jibatis slow in Jibachide, Nanzu Nolo, make Sunday Nolo la, Tutil Jibachachi Carresena, Tado in Jipatere, and Sosi Soli Nolo, Tado Yungi Michina, Sosola, Dese Madewazo, Mila Dese Madewazo, Solo Dishuchide, Tado Singere, and just Domala Sawatana, Todogi Jipale, Troturis.
The fear of snake. The snake here represents the external fear. The internal fear actually is the jealousy. Jealousy is such an emotional experience that we go through, that if one has this, if one cultivates this, if one and exposes this, not only it disturbs one's own well-being, but also has the capability of destroying the well-being of others, and jealousy is such a powerful negative emotion as such. Therefore, when if we were to pray to Tara, we would certainly be freed from the fear of internal fear of jealousy.
Canada Delagoni, Gancho Gindu Chibegi, Tene Mari, Tupi Kondengesiji, Japanso, Tonsem Zeba, Dube, thinking in the Chashive, Tado Dinjibasha, the Sosombaris.
Given this background, the first Dalai Lama Gendudruk in his hymn states this: lurking in its dark pit of ignorance, unable to bear the wealth and excellence of others, it swiftly injects them with its cruel poison, the snake of jealousy. Protect us from this danger.
Then about the chocolate in Jipale, Shansuka the Shugi, they are Jono Taranante, Songa Nolola, Lot Onjan Hela, Jagagi, Gujarati, Sajane, then Barkasa Sayagi, Sajatelia. Somba top chimbochi, and it true me, don't try as a yunkigi, somba chimbochi. Then Namu don't try Momboteju, Lumboche, Najaha Chila, Jalan Radamanda Kene, and it's one of the castle. Langa Satulon to Jene, Japa, Mitron Tosha Yungi, and a Jam the Niji Chiniminki, Miss and a Shata Sangit and Digi, Rikachi to Chin, and Yell and Dronke, Tumba Mombo Johnny. Lomba le shada talk by Yogochine de Yore. And it's a 다 총바디지 델레디칼 단 샤동게 메게 차디칼 때네 총바디기 롱서 예스 도마라 소와 따바다 냠데 아니 가와네 레고 하마고 미동사 몽모 이게 마미 동사 몽모 고라 자롱지 있겠는데 레체네 그마 잡아서 베다 파리 뭐 파트버리스 근데 제체는 고 랑가라 네바 마슈네 타수그레스
Again, I cite the narrative from Taranatha's treatises. This is the fifth, the fear of the thieves of wrong view, the fear of wrong view. In this, the narrative goes like this. It was in the Gujarat, current Gujarat in India. There's a place called Barukach, where a very rich merchant lived who would do trading and merchandise with a caravan of thousands of camels and hundreds of horses and so on. He would do the trading with these caravans, carrying the merchants for him. But at a certain point in an seemingly empty, non-occupied site or a land, they met with the caravan met with thousands of thugs and thieves who had no compassion, no loving kindness, but would attack, kill people, eat their flesh, relish their flesh, drink their blood, and so on. So much so that one could see in that particular area the blood, bones, and flesh of human beings strewn all over, spread all over. So at that point, this particular merchant, the rich merchant, he supplicated and prayed for Tara, and to his surprise, not knowing from where it ended up, all of a sudden, a host of warriors emanated by Tara, wielding weapons and wielding weapons of different types, terrified all those host of thugs and thieves, terrified by these emanations of warriors emanated by Tara. They all ran away and left the place. In this way, the merchants they were protected from the fear of thieves. Long.
다테네 만도 디지치니 시용기 제세 소로 작은도 데네 제사 시기 꿈복인 지발 샤바 나시 나라다 소수기 게자다 소수기 야라 조시 강가 금메가 건도와 나시 제네 메바 종게 디슈데 카르르세나 따왕 냠바테레 제사 아니 제스 도마로 소와타나 따왕 냠바테 거기 지바테레 토토그레 텔라고네 장초 겐도 쳬베게 tushio mongpen rogen juri ta tache nyange thongla rajisi pedim rodo gemba kanjabe tange kumbin jipa shadu sombarese.
Since we're running out of time, I will try to keep it brief. The host of thieves here represents the external fear as an example. And the internal fear is the wrong views. That is the internal fear, wrong views. When someone upholds the wrong view or inculcates wrong view in himself or herself, all the roots of the virtues and the moral disciplines and so on will be destroyed, totally destroyed by virtue of this wrong view. So when we encounter such wrong views, we be to pray Tara. Tara's blessings will definitely protect us. Given this background, the first Dalai Lama in his hymn states this. Roaming the fearful wilds of inferior practice and the barren wastes of absolutism and nihilism, they sack the towns and hermitages of benefit and bliss. The thieves of wrong views protect us from this danger.
Then, Trubate Senate Todunji Palichons, Pico, Tela Jonotara Nante Chena, Sona Tene Yamayang Jagalombe Nolola, Kamaketa Chambochi, Kamanga Jack Pembo English, Kong Jabi Potan Alan Zuche, Jabi Ponza Alan Zu, and Jabi Ponza or Chala Chachimbo Mombo Yorina, Teso Passion, Tombo Kongi. Jabi Poran Alola, Chang Tong Sera, Chang Zama Kashin Tong, Kotamon Chang Jachi Tongche, and Chala Kromashu Radziche, and Jabi Poron list, and Shoke Jabi Porogi, Koso Ateso, Tony, Kosi, Jabola Tiche, Kambala Pateso, Chajan Shan. Tako to Chenen, Jesu Domala Sawa Town, the Kumbala Pala Chajan Joteso Kanga, Metu Tiva Chasu. Then a Yancha Tema, Todo Sabaya, in the Tema Dizaya got the Tatu Kanga, Meto Chiva Chan the Curtain, Jabo de Yanda Chin Sechin, that the Leshuzene Leshon. Then let's have a jela, Jesu Domeo College Yezicine, Tane, yet Tanda Choro So Shire, Tane is a Chanagi, Kamakayat and Samja go eats and a son. Then is Umbako Kamakayat and Samja. Then they Chinoko, the Carso Gore, Jabigi, Tenkonema, Tower is it.
Okay, now the number 6. This is the 6 is the chain of miserliness, fear of chain of miserliness. That is fear of the iron chains, bound by iron chains. This is again, I here also I can quote the Taranatha's treatises. This is a narrative that has to do with an incident in way back thousands of years ago in India. There was a leader of a host of thieves, a host of 500 thieves, a leader, very strong leader. He planned, he was in a task of actually robbing the royal king's royal palace. The royal palace is filled with priceless articles, things and so on. But instead of robbing those, what he found was he found there were various types of liquor that the king had, and he just took liquor and drank those so much so that he became drunk and fell asleep. And in the morning, he found himself being bound by chains and by chain and imprisoned. So at that point, when he knew that, he reflected upon Tara and prayed her, and all of a sudden, due to Tara's blessing, the chains, he got unleashed from the chains, and those chains turned into the garland of flowers. And again, he was caught and again chained back and imprisoned and tortured. Again, he prayed, and again, the chains, iron chains again turned into garland of flowers. So when this happened a number of times, and the king was informed, the king was very taken aback. He was surprised. He was taken aback, and then out of helplessness, he was released from the prison and freed. Once he was released and he arrived at his own place, the thief, leader of the thief, had a vision one time. Had a vision of a lady who spoke to him in the vision, saying that I was the one who protected you from the fear of chain, being from imprisonment. So if you must commit that now that from now onwards, you and your host of thieves must commit that you will not steal, or you will not engage in the act of stealing. In this way, he committed, and he is put in. And Tara was able to put an end to his wrongdoings of stealing and stealing. So.
Then Sene Jipa de Jodo Jipa la chance de Shin Jipa Chere. Jodo Jipa than Java, the Nang Jipa the Carrera Sena, Sena singing there. Minchil Sena singing the Yetsan is on the Sosi Yaba the Sosi Peshe Tomata, Soso Kangete, Tana Tama de Sena Chede, and Sosi Topoda, Kata Dogre, and Soso Tamachida, Sena Yankamachi, Sani Jupachela, Rapa Tanto Chirago Mares, and Nanga tended a go chene, Jancho Gentu Tribegi tene Moses Bitanko Rawa, Liche Ram, Mepachi, Sepe Gata, Yakin Chavali, Sene, Chodun Jifasha, the Sombares.
The iron chain is the external fear of being imprisoned, and internal fear actually is the miserliness. Miserliness is such an emotional factor that if one possesses this, one will never have a sense of peace, in the sense that one will never be able to utilize one's own belonging for good, and in the end, one will also perhaps be isolated without friends, friendlessly. One will be isolated, and one will remain distant from all those one know, one is known to. So such are the drawbacks of the inner fear, miserliness. Given this crux, given this as an essential significance, the hymn of the first Dalai Lama says this: binding embodied beings in the unbearable prison of cyclic existence with no freedom, it locks them in craving's tight embrace. The chain of miserliness protect us from this danger. Long.
Loss. Then, Carso Gorata, Jipa Dambate Carrera Sena, then Tansa Shazin Jipasin, Tansa Shazin Jipe Quasiabala, then Jonatara Nati Sunga Nolola, then Nanghema Jaga Shasho Bangalagi, Yola, Gendu Dechi, Yore, and Trava Jata Tonta Mombo Yusa Dechimbochire, Palanchil Ten Olola, Ten Yasachela, Dondrich Lech in the Tene Trava Re Shich, and Parachela Trava Mombochi Dama Pele, Piendo, Saba Shungi. 아니 하람 잡아 배 짜면 줘야 차려야니까 전에 게스 추추지 건다 차송도 되깔아 아니 돈쟁이 좀 통체 근데 그게 가는 때는 게스 드라마치 타가 첨부 돼서라 게스 드라마 생기가 니바 몸보시 같은 게 요아래서 대거디디 콩 게스 드라마라 샤스 취제네 대한바다 때네 때문에 체 고와도 녀한테 때네 하모 나모 라팔라 라트 킹이지래 레바다 때네 레모데 짜네 론소 자바텔 차피 공다시 시바마제 아니 원에마 사티 짜가 pom바지 야를 테카시온데 가라 마티 짜가 pom바코 요레스테야 아니 자바텔 테니 송오레 다 테네 좀바테네 곰바테야 가르사 동데명게 차수에 전에 야 샤소 종바레스.
That now the next 7 is the fear of a demonic fear, fear of doubt, fear of doubt. So it's again is a narrative that has to do with hundreds and thousands of years ago. There was a Bihara monastics belonging to the Saviras. There is Saravakayana followers, that is hearers, and it was in that year, that's something unique, something that the monks it was haunted by a ghost, so much so that every time, every day, gradually, monk will be lost. A monk will die because being haunted and being carried away by this ghost and so on. So one night, one of the monks who was a Shramanarika, a novice monk, he happened to stalk outside for urination, stalk out, and then at that time he encountered a demoness in dark in color, very terrifying, and whose fangs had very wrathful fangs stacked up together, and then at that point he reflected, he remembered that in the Mahayana traditions, the Mahayana followers do talk a lot about Tara, Tara who protects from 8 fears. So reflecting, remembering this in himself, he just sought intense refuge in Tara, and then called out by the name of Tara. And at that point, another a goddess, dark in color, appeared with a sword, wielding a sword in her hand, and she threatened that demoness, and then the demoness was driven away. And not only this, this dark goddess who was there to rescue him, asked this demoness to seek forgiveness from the monk, bow down to him, and having done all this, and this goddess took out from the earth and took out a metal vase which was filled with pearls, and that was given to was handed over and given to the monk. And since then onwards, the fear of haunting at this site of the vihara by the demoness or ghost stopped. Now.
An chesa nganzo tande cha nganzo bu chu chu kala yina ngege lomba nolo la donje neba shoya ga dong mombo ye ta ane dome nga am tare tere swaha singen den dejo dikala tene donje ngi pale sha soya ga dong nini tsan me mombo shida yo chesa de nganzo tene donje neba yonge zonda ba malon chu denge zonda ba dal ha neba yonge zonda yina yini tian sa men dome nga den de chola
when I was a little kid in my village, there is so many stories related to how people would encounter ghosts and demons and so on. And at that point, the people who do recite Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha, and when they are able to do this, there are many who would also narrate their stories of how they were protected from the fear, and they got rid of the fear and so on. It's not few, but there's a lot of these. So whenever someone encounters a fear from the ghost or demonic impulses, or also encounters, say, disturbing dreams and disturbances being experienced due to a host of ghosts and so on, at that point, if one way to seek the blessings of Tara, one would be protected. No.
다 주세 창군이 안에 남아서 까망같이 나 태바야로 지승에게 한테 저통기 뇨뇨만도네 까망하게 디세디 담아서 까망아 야로지스.
Okay, so we are almost running out of time, but I want to take 5 minutes extra from you, so please forgive me. No.
Then 사진 지파데 실록이 ane donjeng jipate shilog jipade dege jipa dege chewate nologi tensang jipade tensang sengide ane lekachi lebayina loje ni che ta jemata ane chuji zona loje ni che ta jemata dende ta jemata ke soloji kope no ye chade kala mete chasi drobayina chung chebayina chi drobayina ane lolong yombaji chene yong togu mare ane jesu domara sawatana leka kare chebayina tensagi
And now the fear of demon or fear of ghost is the external fear. The internal fear is the doubt, fear of doubt. if an individual has this so-called state of mind doubt, it will be double-edged in the sense that one will be always indecisive, even if one way to carry and decide to do Dharma practices, it may not be fulfilled, or to one way to carry out earthly missions and so on, it would be difficult to carry out. Of course, there is this double-edged, double-pointed indecisiveness within oneself. That's called doubt. So whatever dharma or whatever religious or non-religious activities one may engage in, the mission may not be fulfilled. And so if one way to pray, Venerable Tara, Tara has the capability to bless us and protect us from this fear of internal fear of doubt. Now,
Tushu Mongbin Rogin Yuri Dang Tacha Yang Tola Raji, Pedin Road, Gamba Kanjambi, Tang, Kimbin Jipas, Shad the So Sombares.
Given this background, first Dalai Lama in his hymn says, roaming in the space of darkness, darkest confusion, tormenting those who strive for ultimate aims, it is viciously lethal to liberation. The carnivorous demon of doubt protect us from this danger. Long.
Oh, Tiana, Tane, Jiba Java de Jansi Lala Shibin Jiba, they should chewing Jiba singing it, Nete, do the generation being as they said Zosos, then Jonathan Antegi, Anesong Nolola, Nangama Jaga Hoshola, then Somba Tongshang as a Jigi, Janson Nolo Sonche, Janson Nolo, Soso give a novel Bochere, Zende Sachu, Tene Mombo Kenny Chilevere, Zambale Chimale Hela, Ludupachete, so Taduchi. And Lutsu Jachene, Ganga Toshi Sumbare, Toshin Rawamazi, and Konzu Solaya, Yanka Lebicala, and Tizino Lay Tabakashi, Tumbal Chansar, Kashi Wonshil Bear, then a Kashi Jashin Bear, Kashi Camberan Bear, and in Jipali Trotoya Mare. Tin Olola, Nambe Genichi Ranchi or Tigi, Domala Soata and Azu, Jipali Togri, then a Konzo Kange, Domala Soata Balatene, and Chate Zambali Chiyon Tursores, and Navi reject Jalates on Zambali Tursores, do Digishin Malakim.
Now, the eighth fear is fear of the torrent, fear of the flood of attachment. So I need to be brief because we are running out of time. And again, this is also cited from Taranatha's treatises, in which the narrative goes like this. There were 5,000 margins who journeyed, navigated with the help of ship and into the ocean to collect wish-fulfilling jewels and sandalwoods and so on. Their mission was to go and collect those and bring those back to the back to Jambudvipa. Once when they were on the journey back, having collected these, the Nagas, the obnoxious Nagas, a host of Nagas out of became jealous, and the host of Nagas who were intent to harm them had put obstacles on their journey, and this way everyone in the ship, the 500 merchants, they all, although they prayed to the holy gods like Ishwara, Brahma, Kumbera, and so on and so forth. However, they could not be relieved from this fear of harm being caused by the host of the Nagas who were angry. And then, but amongst the 500 merchants, there was one who was a Buddhist monk, and he reminded himself of Tara's grace and mercy, and intensely prayed Tara, and that is how then Tara's blessing protected all of them, and they were able to make a safe return journey to Jambudvipa, having acquired all the wish-fulfilling jewels and sandalwood that they have collected. Now,
시기 지바 양체발라 지바서 추긴 지발에 채와 놀로라 내가 추긴 지바데 대변이 가사치래 미스질이 안에 첼리 게베게 내가 위에 찬이 송바치라 못에 소소야 시대 현장에 두고 말해라 소수 친지 정바 있는데 소수기 신소 니와 가와 있나야 안에 현장에 두고 말해 근데 이산에 내가 추긴 지바든 지바 첨부지 대양 안에 예수 정말을 때는 샤토래 대대라고는 장초 견도 트베게 안에 신다 가까스비 지숑시 레론 잡이 제도 냐와르 시간한 저와노 란조베 내가 추긴 지바 샤도서 숨바레스.
Now, the outer external fear is the fear of the flood or the torrents of this ocean, and the internal fear is the attachment. This internal fear attachment is such a powerful negative thing that if one way to engage in this and get involved in this beyond limitations, this will beyond limitation and out of greediness, this will not only disturb one's own peace, serenity, but also of the neighbors and of the community, as well as the community at large. So that is the internal fear. But in order to protect ourselves from such forces of internal fear, if we were to pray to Goddess Tara, she definitely has the ability to protect us. So in this context, given this context, first the Dalai Lama in his hymn says, sweeping us in the torment of cyclic existence, so hard to cross, where conditioned by the propelling winds of karma, we are tossed in the waves of birth, aging, sickness, and death. The flood of attachment protect us from this danger.
ndo dini shina ne soso la kange karin cheshuna kange chebi nyumotela jesu doma la sowa tana jesu dome gi sema tawe kange chedu jesu dome gi masene shaja kange che yomara tise telo soso gi shi tsome thone kange karin cheshuna jesu doma la sowa ta goris.
In short, whatever major or minor problems and troubles that one encounters, in order to free oneself from such fears and troubles and so on difficulties, one must supplicate Tara, for there is no difficulties or troubles and so on, obstacles that cannot be addressed by Tara. There isn't any problem we can say that which is something that Tara cannot free us from. So therefore, whenever we encounter any problems, such problems in our lives, one must supplicate Tara and seek her blessings.
Oh, thank
you so much. I would like to stop today's teaching at this point.
Gyawan da tangche rada ngowa iti so shebe jawan tangche che ngowa kola chodan hapate gewe zawan da gyocho zombo she she rada ngowa ijo iti so lame kaze rat nagan chale shoje jimba da losan tembe deme sasu roye mase tada nenjo ichi iti so roma che gyochen rada koda kaze se da ching Cheje Chencho Zombo Chendra Wa Tendra Kwana Dason Ju Wa Shu Wa Che La De Ji So Wa Tat Daso Konda Nembe Sa Shu De Ne De Wangbo Ta Ze Shu Wa Cheda Ta Shen Pe Wa Ze Do So Me Shu Se Je Ja We She La Dan Tenje La Wa Me Be Dem Da Ge La Sa Dan Be Ta Da Je Me Be De Go De La Nyang Jo Shu